Hello, hello, hello. Welcome and good evening. Let us know where you're joining in from tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Dear Future Hubby Love, your future wifey, with me, your host, your friend, your sister, Juanita E. Cameron. I'm going to invite you to go ahead, like this page, subscribe to this channel. We have a lot of good things in store for you tonight. You don't want to miss it. I hope that you are having a wonderful Valentine's night and you're enjoying yourself. Coming up for me shortly will be my featured guest, 40-year veterans married and enjoying it. Tonight's episode is How Did We Get Here? I'm so excited to bring to you these two wonderful lovebirds. But before we do that, what's Dear Future Hubby? Love Your Future Wifey. It's passion, a desire, an affirmation, declaration, inspirational program that God had put in my heart for a long time. And I'm so happy to bring it to you live starting on Valentine's night. It's going to be monthly, so I encourage you to make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the Facebook page that you're viewing it from. Go ahead and drop in the comments where you're watching from, as well as you can leave comments and questions, feedback. We love to hear from you. Grow with us as we grow this program and grow this channel. And so tonight, my featured guests are my lovely parents, Reverend Dr. and Reverend Mrs. Cameron. And I'm so excited to have them with me tonight. They're going to be delving into some serious questions. And this is only part one. Next week, we'll have part two. Now, I also have some sponsors. So stay tuned for a sponsor spotlight. Our sponsor for this first episode in the series is UBSL Studios. The music you're hearing, the lovely music, has been sponsored and provided by UBSL. So stay tuned for a word from our sponsor. welcome back. I hope that you've been enjoying so far. And I have with me my beloved parents, Reverend Dr. Oswin Cameron, and my dear mom, Reverend Cora Diane Cameron, and they're together married for 40 years. So you can go ahead and you can use your microphones, you can turn it on. And I just want to remind you that you can follow this program by looking at our hashtag, and the hashtag is hashtag DFHYFW, and that hashtag is Dear Future Hubby, Your Future Wife. You should be seeing it running on the screen for you, our hashtags, so that you'll be able to know where to find it. Also, make sure that you follow our guests. They have their own social media platforms, and you can follow Pastor. I'm going to probably call him Pastor and Daddy interchangeably tonight at Dr. Oswin Cameron. And you can follow my mom at Roxy Cora. Everybody knows her as Roxanne, but her official name is Cora Diane Cameron. All right. So, you guys, thank you so much for coming on my very first episode. I'm so happy that you're here with me. Usually, I'm the person behind the scenes making things work, and tonight, I'm the one in front of the camera. So, welcome, welcome, welcome one more time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you're going to see running at the bottom of the screen how you can follow along with us and how you can get involved and how you can follow what I'm doing. I'm so happy that you're on with me tonight. So, we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube. To those of you who are on YouTube, go ahead and share it, invite somebody, tell them that we're on and we're live when it's on and it's popping. Okay? All right. So, without any further ado, let's go into our very first question. So, my first question to you, Daddy and Mommy, what has brought you two together? Tell us, how did it happen? We want to know the story, the full on story. Remember, these are 40-year veterans. They've been married going on 40 years this year, and we want to know, how did you do it? Because, you know, these days, some people don't even last 40 days, months. So tell us, who wants to go first? Look at them debating.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister J. And I want, first of all, to say thanks for having us on your first episode, your first series. So we want to bless God for you. I just want you to know that those of you who are watching, this has been in our heart for over a year, and it has now become a reality. So thanks, Juanita, for having us, your first guest on your program. So we want to answer the first question. The first question. So what? Could you go to question? Yeah.
So the first question is, what brought you together? How did it happen? What brought the two of you together? How did you come to be together?
So let me begin by saying that love brought us together. Of course, love brought us together. Yeah. So love brought us together, and how did it all happen? I met this goodly young man many moons ago in Borbis, because I'm from that part of Guyana. Guyana has three counties: Essequibo, Demerara, and Borbis. So I am from Borbis, and he was born in Demerara but lived in Essequibo, and then eventually in Georgetown. So he was in Borbis for special meetings, and that's the first time I met him. Then I subsequently went to Georgetown at the invite of some friends, and I met him again at the Charlotte Street Church, Wesleyan Church. And eventually he had to go back to Borby's for crusade. And there I have a friend who we worked together at the company, and she said to me, "You know this guy, Pastor Jack Cameron, and I think you may know him." I said, "Yes, I met him before." She said, "Well, we had a conversation, and he said he would like to get on to me." And so she said, we have a special meeting at the New Amsterdam Wesleyan Church, and you want to come and visit or come a night." So after I, was toying between going, and then I have to get the last bus to get home to Kanji, where I'm from. And so I said, "You know what? I don't think I could do all of this. I will go and I'll peep in the church, and then I'll go home." And I did just that. So I peeped and I saw him. He was on the platform at the that church, the Wesleyan Church, and he was praying. He had on a white shirt jack. We call it. I don't know what shirt jack we call it. We had a name for it. What's the name? Bush jacket. And so we had that. We had that. I had that peep and I saw him, and he continued praying. And I said, "Oh, yeah, he looks good," and I left. And then subsequently, she came back to me again and she said, "He's left now because the week is done and gone, and he's back in Georgetown." She said, "Why don't you call him? Because he was hoping I would have spoken to him before he left for Georgetown, if my memory serves me right, because it's quite a long time. That's since 1980. So I called him, and when I called him, right away he knew it was me, and we haven't spoken for a few years. We didn't even speak to each other, and we had never spoken on the phone. So he knew it was me, and then we started to talk, and I said to him, "I'm told to call you, so I'm calling you now." And so, what's going on? And we had a candid conversation, and so on and so on. So eventually, we continued to talk and talk and talk on the phone. Remember, he's in Georgetown, and in those days, not like today, you have all these gadgets and so on, and to pay attention to us and to help us to do what we do. And eventually, one day, I think that was August, and by October, he was saying to me, that when I heard your name mentioned to me, the Lord said to him, "That's your wife." So I said, "Okay." To myself, I didn't say anything. In those days, us girls would play a little hard card, kind of. So I said to he then he said to me as the conversation developed over the week and over the months, he said, "By now I love you and I would like to marry you." Yeah, short space of time, months. And so I said, "So you want the answer now?" And he said, guess what he said? Yes, he wants the answer now. He always direct, always a direct guy. He wants the answer now. So the smart girl from Borby's, the smart people from the east. I said yes, and then I went home to my mom and I spoke to her and I said, this gentleman is saying that he loves me and would like to marry me. And she said, "You know him?" I said, "Yeah, I know him. And I prayed the Lord, asked the Lord to send me a husband. And so I was hoping the husband come at 25, but I was younger then. And then she said, "So what you thinking?" I said, "Well," I said to him, "Yes." She said, "Okay." So he said if I had said to him, "Let me go check," and so on, he said that would have been it, because this man liked to do his business and do it properly. And that's that part. Up to that part, I can tell you. I don't know what else he would like to add or take away from it.
Well, a pleasant good evening to you, and I trust that you're enjoying this program. And most of what she said is basically how things happened. I had not known her before, and I was introduced to her uh, by a friend of hers who was we were all young people around the Charlotte Street Church, and her friend was not from the Charlotte Street Church, but she was visiting. She would visit from time to time. And so this particular time when she came into the city, there was nothing really between us. I was introduced to her, and that was it. And sometime after that, I went with the late evangelist Charles Vantel, and we were ministering at the Full Gospel Church in New Amsterdam, where she's from. And that's when I saw her again for the second time. And I went back in that area to hold revival services at the church that she spoke about. And a friend of hers, I think they worked at the same place. And but her friend was a member of the church in that city, that town where I went to minister. And she asked me if I knew uh, Roxanne Edwards. And I said to her, I vaguely remember seeing her maybe twice. And what she said to me, she wanted to invite her to come to the services. And so I said, that's a good thing to do, invite her. And at that point in time, I was not even thinking of a relationship will emerge out of this contact. It was just a casual, you know, uh, meet and greet. But subsequently, after the meeting, she came and she said she peeped through the window, but she looked through the window. She never came in the building, and she went her way. And so I never saw her during that week of revival services. And I went back and to the city and going about my own business. And one day, because she didn't have a telephone and I didn't have a number for her or anything like that, but her friend knew at the time that I worked at the Government Technical Institute. And so it was easy to make contact with me because once you call the switchboard and you give them my name, they will locate me. And so when she called, we started to talk. And I gave her my home number. And we would talk in the morning because she would go to work very, very early when she get to work. And I think she started work at 7 o'clock. And I would, get to work for about 9. And so we would talk before I would leave home to get to work. And so the conversation started to flow. And eventually, one day, there was this strong compulsion from the Lord that you know that you're talking to your future wife. And I had no idea. And so in just in obedience to the Lord, I told her exactly what I believe the Lord said to me. And so if she had said, well, I didn't hear what you heard, I would have I would have moved on and just go about my life. But that was not the outcome. As you know, 40 years after, we're still together, and I thank God. We've been through some tough times in the ministry. We've had some challenging moments, challenging experiences, not in our marriage, but in the ministry in different places, and it has been a 40 years of sacrifice. And so that the ministry and lives could be touched by the good news of the Lord Jesus Christ. And so that's how it started. And looking back over 40 years, I think they got some questions, asking about, how you know this. Well, when we get to those questions, we'll answer. But that's how we started. And I met her. I wrote her mother because her mother was a single mother, and I wrote her mother uh, after we had agreed, that this was we were going forward. And so when she gave me the okay, I wrote her mother asking her permission to have her hand in marriage and permission to visit. I never visited her home before I got the the okay or the approval from her mother. And so when I got the approval, when the letter came back, then we had no Facebook, no email, no WhatsApp, no high five. That wasn't in at that point in time. It was snail mail. You just write in, no Instagram and all of this kind of stuff. You just snail mail. You write in letters, you post. It'll take maybe a week to get to her place. Then whenever they respond, it'll take another week before you know I get their response. And so when I got the response, I decided to pay a visit, and I met her mother. I met her siblings, and introduced myself to them. I wasn't nervous meeting them. There was only one thing they could have done, one or two things. Either they say yes, but the mother had already said yes, so it didn't matter what anybody else had to say. And so her mother had already said yes. She had said yes before everybody else. And so when her mother said yes, I went and I met them, a beautiful family. Her mother was a tremendous woman. I mean, she was the best mother-in-law I had, and the only mother-in-law that I had. I was always right, and she was always wrong. And so, and I found out that her mother was born in the same month that I was born in. She was the 2nd of May, and I'm the 9th of May. And so there was that connection between us, and it went on. And so 40 years later, we're still together, and looking forward to another 40 years going ahead.
So, so, Hubby Cammy, um, it was love. I could say that eventually, as you know, as you start to talk to each other, there's a chemistry that develops, and that chemistry was, to him. And I said, I had a few questions in my mind because I had a list. Ladies who were listening, I had a list of what are some of the things I would like to achieve in life because of coming from my kind of background. I had no father in the home, so I was troubled a little bit about that. So I needed to know where my life was going to go and how I would get there. So I wanted to be an improvement, and I said it to my mom. I wanted to be an improvement of her so that I could do better for my own family when that time comes. But all of this is contingent on what God wants to do with our lives. Then eventually, Pastor Vantel, if all of you would have known him, we had his funeral at Lighthouse. He said to me, I got to know him, and he was in my life for somewhat at that time. And I remember he said to me, "Do you have a photograph?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you have a boyfriend?" I said, "No, I don't." So he said, "Bring the photograph, and I'm going to pray over it." My picture, and he took that picture for me and he prayed over it. And when he heard who the person was, he was pleasantly happy because Pastor Vantel was once his mentor in his early days of ministry. He used to be preaching all over Guyana and so on for him, with him. And so Pastor Vantel played a part there too. But like I said, I had this list, and everything I had on this list, this gentleman was the only fit one. But I said, you know what? God don't make mistakes. I said to him, I said, God, what is it? What is it that this gentleman would offer me in my life? I said, God, what is it he's going to offer me if I get married to him? I notice young people today, and I might as well put in a little piece here. They would just do whatever they want just to get a husband, but that was not my forte. I said, God, what would this gentleman offer me in my life? Because I know poverty was just around the corner and it was messing up a little bit. And I said, I want to do differently. And I will let you know this now. Vividly, I heard the Holy Spirit say to me, "This man is ambitious in me." And those were all the words I needed to hear from the Holy Spirit. And I took that leap of faith and got married. It wasn't, marriage. People feel marriage is a easy road. Then you see, we too, as we in our days when we grew up, we know it was you're born, you went to school, you get married, you get children, and the cycle continues. And then of course other things happen in life. So we didn't have too many other things, but I was always ambitious to go further my education after high school and so on and so on. And I did. So, but what I'm saying to young people, let the Lord lead you. Don't lead him. If you lead him, you will fall into a ditch because and then you will say, God, what happened? And so when the Lord said to me, He's ambitious in me, I didn't see what the Lord was telling me, but I had to take it by faith. And I did just that. Today, the rest is history for that question. So, how did we get here? Love. I love you.
Well, love is the foundation of every lasting relationship. If you don't love the person, is not when the tides of
Hmm.
contrary winds start to blow. If you really don't love each other, you are going to separate. But over and beyond that, it was our faith in God too, and our commitment to the Lord and to walk with God and to to be a witness for His kingdom and for His glory. And so we're looking back with happy memories. I wish if we could roll back the 40 years, there are a number of things we probably would have done differently
I was
if
gonna
we could
say
roll
that.
back to
Yes.
40 years. But through it all, we thank God for the experiences that we've had, the lives that we've touched,
Mm-hmm.
and the mark that we have left. We haven't gone yet. We're still alive. The mark is still there,
Right.
and I trust the Lord that even after we're gone, that mark will not be erased.
And then another thing to hobby Cammy, because this is now we're not in the in the pulpit now.
They got to call me pastor. I ain't letting them call me anything but they have to call me pastor. All those
So
who thinks that they must call me pastor, just send me some hearts.
no, we call him hobby Cammy, hobby
Yeah, I get
Cammy.
the hearts already. I get the hearts. I get the hearts.
So another thing too is that I allow the village. I had a village in my life. You know, we call it the social media. Some of us we see it as a village too. But where I grew up, I had a village in my life, and I often would seek the village advice, and especially the women who were ahead of me. And listen, not every and anyone could pour into you. You need to hear that carefully. So I choose in my church some of the older women who I knew were wise enough to give me some answers. How I know they were wise? Because the way they were conducting themselves and the kind of advice they will give you as we were growing up as young women. So I would go to them and they have the name. I have their name still. I would say, "What do you do when I'm getting married? So what do I do when the time comes for my husband and I, and we have some troublesome spots?" Listen, they were on the button with me, and they said to me, I remember one of them said, "Teeth and tongue gonna bite, but allow saliva to heal it." So they give an explanation, and in everything you do, remember there is a forgiveness aspect in this relationship. You have to forgive. You have to work things out, and I've come to some conclusions on some matters. Like, for instance, when the Bible says, "Don't let the sun go down on your wrath." I don't know if it's literally the sun in the day, but it will take a period of time, a couple of times, for that sun to go down. And then Christ in the middle there helps. But we'll get to that point, how we dealt with, situations that we didn't agree on, and how we managed to be where we're at still, loving each other.
Wonderful. Dr. Dexter Daly in Trinidad and Tobago. You making sport with me? He said, hobby. They got to call me Pastor Cameron, no hobby. Anyway, but God has been good. And one of the things you want to do is to keep your relationship simple. Keep it simple. Don't make it complicated. Uh, my wife said that she had a list. One of the things you want to make sure is that you're not making your list impossible, because you could make the list an impossible list, and you sit there with that list. If you go down that road, you need to go to Home Depot or Lowe's and buy yourself some wax and make the woman that you're looking for and make the man that you're looking for. Everybody comes to the table with some baggage. Everybody comes to the table with some baggage. You both come from different backgrounds, and therefore it is a work. It is something. It's a process. You got to work, and if you're committed to the process, you are going to get good results out of it. It's like a simple illustration. If you have a bank account and you're not putting money in it, a savings account, you're not putting money in it. When a rainy day comes or an economic opportunity comes, you go to the bank, you don't have no money in there. So your marriage is an investment. You got to invest time and quality time in your marriage. The times you have to forget the boys around the corner. You got to forget some of the people who might be calling you, especially early in your marriage, when you're trying to get to know each other in a deeper way. And my wife would tell you that when we finally got to the point, because I think there's a point in the question how it led to marriage. When we got to that point, from the moment I met her parent, her mother, and her family, and we had our nice talk with them. She and I moved to a nice place in their patio. We call it a veranda. And we sat down and decided, what we're going to do because we knew what we wanted to do. And we sat down and we put the date together, the 3rd of January, 1981. We decided we'll get engaged on the 3rd of January,
So,
just after
Pastor, hold on, hubby.
the
So
Christmas and the
let
New
me
Year,
interject
the
here.
whole
So
years.
so you weren't planning to celebrate engagement anniversary.
No, you celebrate wedding anniversary. I don't know whether you celebrate engagement anniversary. You
No, because
celebrate wedding anniversary. When my position on those things, or my personal, other people got other views, but my personal view is when you get engaged, you're indicating publicly that you're about to get married. I don't think that you should be engaged for 2 years, 3 years, and nothing is going on. My personal position is that when my mind is made up that we're going to get married, then the engagement. And so I'm not going to celebrate engagement anniversary. And so we got married in October of the said year. I was already pastoring. I was pastoring a church filled with young people, filled with young women. And my challenge was that, even though there were young women in the congregation that I could have thought about, I always had this in my mind: would this congregation respect my wife if my wife comes from the same congregation? And that was a major challenge for me because I wanted my congregation to respect my wife. And so there was not going to be any engagement anniversary. And so once we got engaged, we sat and decided that the 3rd of October, the said year, 1981, that we were going to get married. And we did that. And so every 3rd of October is a year that we celebrate an anniversary, not an engagement anniversary. January the 3rd, this year would have been an engagement anniversary, but we don't talk much about that engagement business because, you know, we celebrate the wedding anniversary. And my thing is, once you know what you want, and both of you have a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ, that's the key. That's the key in this relationship, in the relationship, and in the longevity of the relationship. There are other folks who have not had a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ, but because of how they were raised and their background, they stayed together. And I celebrate them. I celebrate them. Celebrate people who've not had any kind of strong Christian background, but they're still together. I celebrate them. But our situation was different. She was a young woman in her church, and a Christian, and I was already a minister of the gospel. I graduated from Bible college and I was already pastoring, and so I didn't want to have, a situation where people wondering, we notice he talking to somebody. Is he serious about this person? Or maybe we see him with another person. I didn't want none of that kind of story because my reputation, my reputation was important to me. And I did not want I told the young guys when I taught them in Bible college that repetition takes years to build, one foolish moment to destroy it. God will forgive you. The church will forgive you, but they'll never forget the incident. And so you want to be very careful and be transparent in what you do.
I'm reading some of your comments, and I'm reading here. Sister Jessie said that I need a recipe for my next long-awaited husband. And then Abigail said, "Don't do your own thing and ask God to bless it." Totally agree with you there. And but this is what I want to say too. Remember, I said I had a list, right? And just one of the items on the list he satisfied for me, but I trusted God, and I'm saying this, with a lot of gentleness, Valerie, because there may be a young man who loves you. He may not have. I'm talking from the woman's perspective. He may not have a first degree. He may not have a second degree, but he loves you. What do you do with that young man? Do you say to him, you won't got why got me ain't got time with you. You better go and get yourself qualified. What if God was allowing him to come into your life and eventually things work? I've seen it happen. But the woman in today's world, they got to be counseled into that kind of relationship. So he will understand what to expect, and she will understand what to expect from a relationship like that. And eventually, when God said to me that this gentleman is ambitious in him, I'm alive today to tell you that that's the truth. Is it that everything was nice and, dandy? Nope, nope, wasn't. But because we're coming from different backgrounds, he is from that side of Guyana, I'm from that side of Guyana. And culturally, we were different too, as well. But we had to learn, but one thing, as he said, is that we had Christ in the center of our lives, and that made a difference. Because if the Lord, eventually when you get to know each other and He's bringing you together, He will, as He said, He wouldn't leave us nor forsake us. And I personally depended heavily on the Lord in my relationship. And then and for those of you who are listening now, again, hear this. We courted basically on the phone. Eventually we got to know each other as I started to travel back and forth. But basically we were on the phone. That's how he proposed to me, and we didn't even meet when he proposed to me. We
Wow,
were on the
Wow,
phone.
wow. I'm learning
that's the
something new
online that's
tonight.
the online
That's
Online.
online.
connection.
That's
Wow.
online. So y'all hear that? It happened online.
Wow, proposal on the phone. Well, I just wanted to allow them to have this moment to just share their how boy met girl and how girl met boy, and you're hearing. So there are a couple of things I was making notes while you were talking. I heard that God is the glue. That's really really important. I know for me especially, God must be the glue because there's so many options out there, believe it or not. But you have to make sure that the person you're choosing. Now, I saw a post the other day where someone said, ladies, make sure you choose the right man. And I know we have this little back and forth debate. Pastors doing a study on don't allow your circumstance to constrain you. And I know this is not necessarily a church program, but we are believers, we're Christians, and Pastor has a book. My dad has a book. Actually, can you just hand me that book right up there on the shelf? Thank you. I'm just gonna make a plug right now. Here you go. Hold on to your book, please. Thank you. He's an author. Let the author hold his book. Thanks. Yes, he's an author.
At the
He's a
back of the book has
father.
her picture, so
Yes, but you're the author.
she has a she
And so my dad, this program is Juanita's program, and it's going to be very candid. My father's a very shy man. If you get to know him eventually, but I'm so grateful that I get to live in the house and I get to grow up with both my father and mother, so I could see them. He is an author. He holds a PhD. It's not honorary. And my mom also, it is not honorary. But all and my mom also has her education going. But in all of that, they still come to be very practical people with us and with us growing up, and even now us as adult children who are with them. So we have to put the adult children part in there. So
wow.
I did hear, thank you. I did hear Pastor talk about, thank you, Phoebe. Here. I did hear Pastor talk about um God being in the midst of it, and Mommy said God also should be in the midst of it. And I wanted to put it as God is the counselor. So I was saying, I saw online someone was saying a gentleman responded and said, but I thought it's the man who's supposed to do the choosing. And why I was saying this is important because we still have a choice. The Lord can. I know we have a list of questions, but I want you to. You kind of answered a lot of them. I want you to tell me if you believe, because you started to say you, Daddy. I'm gonna say Daddy, Mommy. Daddy heard the Lord say, right, and He said to you, Mommy, well, I believe the Lord is telling me you're my wife, or this intrinsic, divine operation happening between us tells me that you are the one. And then he wanted her to give an answer. I heard something very important that Daddy said. If she didn't answer or come forward, then he would be like, okay, Lord, on to the next. I know some people look at me funny and strange when I say God always has a ram caught in the thicket. So my response to that gentleman online was, we always have a choice. Because like that, he said, if when he came to you and you had said, nah, I don't know, and you're not hearing what the Lord is saying, it didn't cause him to feel God is not speaking to him. It just meant that if you said yes, it is God's will. The next option God presented, it is God's will because He doesn't take away our power of choice. So that was my response to the gentleman that we as women still have to choose the man. As we're doing the study with Ruth and Boaz, Naomi, she's a boss, okay? She set Ruth up, and Ruth went, and Boaz still had to choose her, but she also had to choose Boaz because she could have said to Naomi, I don't think I'm feeling him. But then it come back to what Mommy said, there was counsel. So this old fox like that, he calls Naomi, said to Ruth, this is what we're gonna do, this is what you're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna do it. Today we need some Naomis. If you think you need a Naomi, you're a single lady, go ahead and just go put some thumbs up in there. Let's see. Let us see. Let's hear. No, I want you to go ahead. Be live in the comments. Don't be quiet. Don't be silent. Go ahead, put your comments in there. And I'm gonna let you know next week they're gonna be on again. So if we don't get all of it this week, they're gonna be on again next week, and we're gonna have live Q&A. So what I want you to do, it's there for you on the screen right now. If you have a question, DM all your questions. For those older ones who don't know what DM means, it means direct message. Send me a direct message on the Instagram handle that you see there, and we will have the questions ready ahead of time for them, and we'll take some live questions. Now, the other thing I heard you say was invest. I always believe that relationships require heavy investment. Nobody invests little bit to get plenty. You gotta really do an investment if you want to get good returns. And then also communication. These are some buzzwords that came out there. Communication is an important thing, and process, going through the process. One of you said that. Also, I heard forgiveness. Forgiveness is very important. I have a mentor who loves to say marriage is an institution of two forgivers. Because if you cannot forgive, then you might as well stay single. Don't get married. If you're holding on to things, then marriage is not for you. You have to be able to forgive. And then I heard that he said, big, big time commitment. I think commitment, investment, they go hand in hand. And communication is a very important thing because they talked almost every day. There probably was telegram in the original sense of a telegram. Go and send a telegram on the phone or through the operator switchboard. And they had postcards or they wrote letters or when because one daddy said to me once, he would time when mommy got to work. And he would call you at your job or is the other right.
Either way.
So he would time when she's getting to work. So that means they really put time into it, got together with each other's schedules, made an effort to do that. So he would know when she's in work, and they had no text message. So the man was really paying it. Oh, hubby husband.
No.
That I
I
mean,
don't even know what the phone bill was like. How much money you spending your phone calls?
phone calls
I,
a month.
Use your
it was
microphone.
cheap because the only thing is that we had what you call the local long distance.
Okay.
It was a couple cents more than the regular
Don't deal in sense.
calls,
We
and but it was not a problem. it was not a problem. And
It
one of
was
the
not a
things
problem.
we
Ladies?
we spoke to each other Monday through Friday because I
Oh.
don't think you worked on Saturdays.
You
I
you
used
probably
to
might be
work
about
on
about that.
Saturday because I work with the Department of Education, and back then we worked Saturday up to midday. But she and where she lived, she did not have a phone, and there were no cell phones or even pagers at the time. So we sound ancient because
We were
and so
ancient.
none of those things were available to us, and so we had two options. You either write a letter, snail mail, or you send a well, three options. You send a telegram. A telegram is basically if you're sending a death message or something to some family. So telegram was out. So it was either
It's like
the
an
phone
instant
call,
message.
either you make the phone call or you write a letter,
Mm.
or you hit the
Cross
road.
the
And then
river.
sometimes I did that on a Saturday. I'll say to my boss, I need to go up to visit my wife to be, and I'm just asking, if I can leave a little early to travel. And so I did that a few times, but it was really challenging because I had to get back because Sunday was church, and so most times I really got into trouble when I got back over the river to get transportation to get back into the city. The folks would double the price because they're saying
Mm.
there is nothing that they are going to get in the city to go back up. And so they're charging you twice. One fare, you're paying two fares. But, we did what we had to do given the kind of reality that we were dealing with at that time. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, or go ahead, because it'll come back to
Because
me.
I saw Leslie saying that in our days were different to these days, but it's the same God. The methods might be a little different indeed,
The
but
principle
the
is the
principle is
same.
the same.
The principle is the same. The methods are different. We're not naive. We understand that times have changed, but the principles are still the same. A principle don't change. The principle goes
I
is
know.
generational. It goes from one generation into the next generation. The principle remains the same. One of the things that create a lot of problems in the modern marriage is that folks are trying to change the principle. You can't change a principle. You can change the method, but the principle remains the same. If you abide by the principle, you're going to reap the success that you're looking for. But if you try to change the principle is stronger than you. It is going to break you.
I like that. I like that. I really like that. Don't change the principle, change the method. Because as I'm hearing here, these are some of the things you still need today. You need God in the middle. God got to be the glue. For me, God has to be the glue. And I believe that if God brings you together, He will sustain and keep you. And it doesn't exempt you from doing the work because you still have to get counsel. You still have to go and commit. You still got to forgive. You still got to love on the days when you don't really feel like loving the person. That's why it's important for you to be in love or married to your friend, because then when you don't feel like you're so in love, because love, whilst it is a noun and it's an action word, it also is an emotion that goes and comes. You like the person, so you're in like with your spouse. So for my dear future husband, wherever you are, if you're ever going to see this or you're watching, I pray and hope that we will be friends and we will be in like with each other, so that the days when you don't feel like you feel in love with me and I don't feel like I feel in love with you, we're in like with each other, that we can still invest in our relationship. I like to call marriage a team. That's my own thing. If you're gonna use it, make sure you quote me at Miss JelC. That's my handle I'm using. I like to say marriage is a team. Together, every day we are affirming our marriage. And affirming there is taking action. And that's doing the things that I see my parents have done. And I look forward and I aspire to do the same things in my own relationship. So I noticed that you said make a list, because some people have a problem with lists, but don't make the list. Then Daddy said, don't make the list impossible. I heard so many different schools of thoughts on this, and I used to think, I don't need a list. Let me just trust God, and He's going to grant me the desires of my heart. But the scripture also says to make a request known, make it plain. So, my sisters and I, we decided we're going to start sitting down and thinking about what exactly do we want or we desire in a spouse or in a husband. And someone sent me a nice message the other day to encourage me that she was waiting for a long time, and then she got really specific with the Lord, and not impossible, but started to say the attributes. Not tall, dark, handsome, bearded. By the way, I love my father's beard. Beard is my weakness. I love a bearded guy. Anywho's, but you go beyond the superficial things and look for the characteristics and the attributes that will help to keep your marriage when you're in the morning of your marriage, you're in the evening of your marriage, you're in the night of your marriage. So that's gonna take me to this next question. And I think for today we will only get to these two questions. But you guys have been answering the questions that I've had so far. And next week as we begin, because this is the first one, the first episode of this series, and next week we will have the rest of the questions, and then we go live into the Q&A because there's some other things that we have for you this evening. So I'm going to take this as the last question for tonight. And thank you so much for your contributions. They have been really, really good. I appreciate them because some people don't know how you get to 40 years. They see you and they see you all dancing and smiling and lovey dovey and so on. And there are times we're going to get to when you had some little loud reasonings because that question is coming up now, as a matter of fact. What has kept you together? So, talk about the den when you first got married. What was keeping you together? So we know the underscoring attribute here is that God put them together. But now let's hear what did you do practically to keep you together. So you're gonna talk about the beginning stages. So that's the morning of your marriage, and then you're gonna talk about the afternoon when you started to have children. You know, morning is you and daddy alone, and then when you started to have children, now it's you and mommy and plus one or two or three or how many, and then you get to the evening of your marriage, which is now. Because you're not at the nighttime. The nighttime is when you're much older and you have grandchildren that's coming and visit you. So you're in the evening of your marriage. So how tell us what kept you together during those different phases of your marriage?
So first of all, let me go first. First of all, marriage was made in heaven, but the details must be worked out here on earth. That's my husband's quote in every marriage ceremony, most of them that he would conduct. But when we got married, I noticed something with the generation. That was my generation because I'm 62, he's 63. So I noticed something with the generation then. My husband was all lovey dovey, the long list of things before the marriage. And I kid you not, the very night we got married, the next day, I see this gentleman just decide, you know what? Yes, we now married, so let's get on with life now. That was the course of the day action in my time. I don't know the generation before what happened. And I'm saying, come on now, we got to still have this. We he feels okay. We have to get on with life. We already married now, so let's look at what we're gonna do for the future. But the women, you want still there in this love mode, and want,
Not a problem.
and all of these things. And I saw that change immediately, a transition from the day before to the next day. And
So in the beginning, before while y'all were courting, and you know, because y'all kind of move a little fast. People today might say you move a little fast. I don't think so, but January, all right. Yes, I do, and so on over the phone. I saw somebody else, Karen, said that she got proposed to over the phone. I'm like, wow, this can still happen today. There's hope for, okay.
Different
And
folks,
then
different strokes.
it
You
depends. I
know,
saw somebody say if there's no interest, there's no investment. So it
right.
depends on the level of the interest. Anyhow, I don't want to digress. So you go through the phase, you say yes, I want to marry you. You come to
mm-hmm,
October, you get married, you're on this adrenaline rush and
mm-hmm,
everything, and then
mm-hmm.
now you gotta make life, and it's like,
Come down. We're gonna come down from that hill,
But
and we're gonna.
but what she didn't remember to tell you, when we got married, she was in a different part of the country working with the bauxite company as a stenographer. I was in another part of the country in the city, and at the time when we got married, it took 2 years before we started to live permanently under the same roof.
what?
Two
So
years.
you guys were married And then for 2 years, how you were doing that? So in the morning of your marriage.
No,
That
we
the
had vacation time. So when the vacation was finished, I went
she
back
would
to
come down.
I went back to Barbies.
Mm.
No, she got to say when the vacation time
Was over.
when she was on vacation,
Mhm.
she came to the city,
Mm-hmm.
and so she came.
Okay.
But she would come every weekend,
Right.
and after a while, it moved to every
Every
other
other weekend.
weekend,
And then
and then
every
in
month.
between, I would make a trip up to her place, and so we had that kind of challenge, and so we had to decide what are we going to do because at that point in time we both needed the two salaries because
Okay.
we had just gotten married. We're trying to build and to put something together, and so we needed the two salaries. And where we came from back then in the Caribbean, most of the English speaking Caribbean that were colonies of Britain, they have this archaic law that if your wife is working, she's employed, and you are employed as a husband, the husband pays the taxes for the wife as well as for himself. And so she was working in the bauxite industry. She was making more money than I was making. And so I was working with the Ministry of Education. When they took her taxes out of my little pittance that I was getting, it was for the it was more it was so
Pittance.
small. And so, but back then things were reasonable, and so we made do with it. And we had to plan. We had to decide what are we going to do. And we God helped us and we made it. And not only that, we had the support of our family and our church family as well as friends around us. They were there to give us the support that we needed at the time. And you look back and you think about all the good things that happened to you then, and you're asking what kept us together. I think that's what. Uh, when we sat down and discussed this, one of the things that we came up with, our faith in God and our love for each other. Our faith in God, our love for each other, and respect for the Word of God.
Mm-hmm. That's the big one.
Because
That's the key one.
if your faith is in God and you have respect for the Word of God, that will help you when you face moments of challenge and moments of indecision. We never thought about divorcing each other. That never happened, never came up. And so you talked about loud reasoning, and sometimes people misinterpret what this loud reasoning is. We would sit down and discuss something. We might disagree on it. That to such an extent that we need to come to a conclusion of the matter, but never never the moment where we thought that, well, this is not going to work. I made a mistake and all that kind of nonsense. No, doesn't matter where you come from. You are two people coming from two different backgrounds. According to Dr. Dexter Daly, there are two histories that are coming together to become one. And that's powerful because I am coming with my own history. She's coming with her own history. We got to blend them together to make
True, true.
our own history now.
Come on now, you
You
gotta
see?
blend it together
We're
to
going to
make your
blend
own
it together
history.
to make our own history,
And then you guys got married young,
which means that
girl.
compromise is the next word.
I
Because if you're
like
gonna
that
blend,
compromise.
there gotta be compromise. Because nobody gets 100% of all the things that they want in life. You get 80%, you ought to lift your hands and thank God for it. And don't bother with the 20% that you really can't get. If you get 80%, celebrate the fact that you get 80%. I mean, you wanted to marry a doctor, but you didn't get a doctor. You get a school teacher. Celebrate that God has given you a school teacher. You wanted to marry a lawyer, but you didn't get a lawyer. You get a surveyor. Thank God for what you get. Nobody gets 100%.
Nobody
Rarely
gets a
something like
hundred
that happen.
percent.
You
Mm,
get 80%, celebrate the 80%, and don't allow the 20% to become to you what the 80% should be.
I
And
like
some
that.
people minor on things that are very small
Yes.
and they forget the major things that can help them to go forward.
Listen, if you're enjoying this still, you still can still share. Share it, share it. See some people still joining. Go ahead and let them know there's good stuff coming on here. He said, Daddy said, um, you have to compromise. Oh my goodness. And we must bind together. So he had his history, she had her story,
You merge
and
them
they
together.
made together their own story. So it really does require you to have faith in God. That's so this is their secret. You want to always know what's keeping them, what's sustaining them, and how they're making it 40 years and counting. Faith in God, love for each other, respect for God's
And
word.
not only respect, but mutual respect. Got to put that
Well,
mutual.
mutual respect for each other.
That's what it is. If
Mm-hmm.
it's not mutual, it's not going to work. You know, sometimes in some we have been counseling with couples, and you see that one person they think it's only one hand to clap. It's got to be both hands to clap.
Mhm.
So both of our hands would clap. So mutual respect, mutual trust. He has 5 things he would say in his marriage counseling at the end of it, and that's mutual trust, mutual respect. He set the parameters early in our relationship, what he expect of myself and what I expect of him. And one of the things he said early to me was that trust is a big thing with him.
But why is that trust to you? Why is that trust to you? I mean, I shouldn't be asking you any question. We supposed to be sharing, but you know why?
But no, no, tell
But
us.
that
That's
would that would
important.
help, and I would
Yes.
expand on it. But why is that trust to you? You might not
Go ahead. I'm
remember all of
listening
it, but
here.
you know it's been a long time. It's 40 years, so you got a right to forget something after 40 years.
No,
A long
I
time.
didn't forget that
But
part at all.
why
I
is
remember
that
he said
trust?
to me that he had a relationship before me that ended up the trust issue became a problem, and he had to part company because of trust. So he said to me, many times in the ministry he may not be around, and he has to have a wife who he can trust in his absence. Now he needs to tell you if he could trust his wife in his
Wow.
absence.
Well, at least I give her 100% because she remember a lot of the stuff. You know, the
There you go.
trust.
You got your 100. You
Yeah,
didn't get
no,
80%. He got
no, that
100 right there.
trust you need 100%. You need a
Thank you.
hundred. You need 100% when it
100%.
comes to trust. As she said to you, there was a young woman that I was dating, and it took what? I think we dated for about 4 years. We never violated each other. We never got into any sinful behavior or conduct. But I was in Bible college and I wasn't prepared to get married while I was in Bible college. I wanted to make sure that I completed Bible college. She was in the teacher training college at the time, and her program was 2 years, mine was longer, and so I wanted to make sure that I completed my at least that level, the initial level of study, and to move on. And it so happened that she couldn't trust herself, and my position is I will not compromise on trust. I'm not going to compromise on trust. If you compromise on trust, it's going to happen again and again and again, and you're going to hurt yourself. And so I decided, look, this is a non negotiable. Trust in marriage is non negotiable. Yeah, forgiveness, yes, I am going to forgive and all of that. But trust is non negotiable because a lot of things can happen. I have counseled people who broke the trust and where they get into sexual sins and they picked up some sexually transmitted disease and they bring that home to the wife, and the next thing you know, both of them are dead. It's tough. And so trust is very, very important. Let me just digress a bit and I'll come back to the whole trust thing. I sat, a young woman saw me on television and decided she wanted to talk to me. And one day I was going to the office where she worked and to make a payment because we were renting the national park for a major event, a major gospel event. And, you know, over 10,000 people were going to be at this event, and we wanted to make sure that we have that venue. And so when I got to that office, she recognized me from television and she said to me, do you have a minute that you can talk? And I said, yes, I have a minute that I can talk. And when she started to talk to me, one of the things that happened is that she said I was faithful to my husband. Faithful. I'd never broken the trust in this relationship. But he did something that has caused me pain. And she said, I am HIV positive. I sat there in that office and I'm wondering, what can I say to this young woman? Young woman, what can I say to her? So trust is very important, very, very important. And at the time when our little bit of dating that we did, I said, I said to her that I have a call, and she knew that I had a call of God on my life, and that I was headed into full time ministry. When we started out, I was bivocational. I was in the ministry, I was pastoring, but I was working on the side. And so they, I said to her, the time is going to come when I would leave this secular job and be full time in ministry. And I sense that God would have me traveling. I've been to Asia, been all over the place, and traveling, preaching, doing different things in the ministry. And I said to her, I don't want to have somebody that I have to be worrying about whether they're doing what is right. I prefer not to have that problem. I'm saying to you, in a relationship, it is better not to have that problem, that trust problem. That just respectfully tell the person that I'm not prepared to take that chance with my life. I have one life, and you have to protect that one life that you have. If the person is not capable of trusting themselves, the relationship is not going to work. You're going to have all kind of problems.
I have,
Things happen. People come to me and say, "Oh, the pastor, Next thing you know, problems again.
I have a question with that. So,
Please.
as a single person, and for the other singles out there, and even probably some married people, because guess what? Dear future hubby, love your future wifey is not just for the singles. We're always growing and developing. So the version that you married mommy and the version that you married daddy, it's not the same version you see before you today. So there is always a future version of you. So that's one of the underscoring attributes of this program, where we're always going to declare, because I really believe in Job 22:20, decree a thing and it shall be established, and the light shall shine on your path. So that's why I'm doing this. For those who are coming in later on and now I missed the introduction, there's the reason why I'm doing this. So for me and many others, singles, male and female, who are believing for their spouse. But I want to ask you this question. You say trust is a non-negotiable. For me as well, especially personally, it's non-negotiable. What are some of the signs that you can tell us that will indicate that trust can be a challenge for the single person who is not yet married? What do we look out for that will tell us, you know what, you might have trust issues coming up here?
If the person that you're dealing with is not true to their own word, they make certain commitments to you, and they keep breaking these commitments. They make certain promises, and they keep breaking these promises. Then they're telling you things, and you subsequently finding out that what they told you 4 weeks ago is not true. You have a problem, because when when my wife said to me that this is a microphone, I believe her that this is a microphone. I don't want to be analyzing whether this is a microphone or a shovel. She said to me is a microphone, and that is a level of our trust. And so I'm not going to go around questioning, get a private detective to find out. I don't want that stress. And so up front, I said my list was very short. Trust is very important to me. Respect is very important to me. The mutual love factor, very important. The mutual fidelity, which is faithfulness to each other, that I am not going outside of the marriage. And then the whole matter of forgiveness, mutual forgiveness is there, because you can get upset with each other at some point in time. and you need to forgive, and especially if it's nothing that can impact the marriage in a negative way, because some frivolous things people allow to become major and it create problems for them. But I use those principles, but the trust factor is very important. A lot of people die because of the trust factor.
And then when it comes to the opposite sex, now I used to be in the prison ministry in my country, and obviously, listen, men always admiring you when you're passing. That's something you can't stop
Especially
them
if they're in
doing.
prison.
And especially if they're in the prison, is all male prison. So you you have no control over that over them what they do, but you have control over what happens to you.
Hmm.
Not only in the prison, but anywhere you go. Men always telling me something nice, and I have to nicely say to them, "Listen, I didn't think that my husband said to me that he tired of me. So what you coming to me with now? Say, come on, man. Let me show you. Let me show you Jesus." And we become some of those guys and we became very good friends. So you have to be able to be trusted, whether you are, and nobody coming to tell me no nice story when I got a husband. They know that Sister Cameron is not going to deal that. If they come to me with nonsense, they're going to hear about Jesus. So that is another thing too. So my husband knows that I'm on all the social media, and he knows that everybody is watching me. They got some men on the social media tell me how much they love me, and they want,
That's a
and
good thing.
tell me about you and all these things. Let me tell you all something. It happens all the
They
time.
slid into the DM.
And the
Ooh.
wrong person they're trying that nonsense with.
They ain't met her
So
husband yet.
it might be not nonsense to them because that's what they're accustomed doing, and that is how life is for them. But when you come into a relationship with Jesus, and I mean a real one, because they got Christians who do that nonsense too. So she's asking a question. Juanita is asking a question.
How do
How
you know the trust is gonna be
if
a
if
problem?
I say that I love you, I must be not able to walk away from you, and you thinking, I wonder if it's
Ah,
me
yes.
really she
Is it
like,
exactly? Yes.
or if him really she like.
Totally
Hmm.
Be upfront with
understandable.
the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Many times these things go bad because people are not honest with themselves or with the
Mm.
relationship. No, man, I know, but not him, not you all. But let me tell you what is. You cannot like she and she and she. That's not scripture. Jesus
You
came and
must
he
make a
died,
choice.
and that went away a long time ago. One man is enough. Why you want to have all these other And for singles, you got to be honest with each other.
Yes.
As you were saying, as I noticed some of you are writing there, the blunt thing is trust and communication. Don't
Yes.
say that you like she, and then when she got an old peep your phone, because if she controlling the bill, she know that she could see what you writing to somebody else, or somebody got to call and tell her, or to call and tell him that don't bother with she got somebody with you.
Mm.
You understand those things? So we can get real with this whole matter, because we have to be on top of what we
Yeah.
do honestly
Yes.
before God. That is what bringing the world to all this nonsense, dishonesty, no trust. All people doing all kinds of things to each other. I love this
Mm.
gentleman. He
And I
satisfies
love
me.
this woman too.
Please, he
Ooh!
satisfies me. So I don't
He
But
have. Come on.
satisfies
one of the
her. Oh
things,
my
the
gosh.
trust thing, the other thing is, my phone has a password.
Come on, come true now.
Her phone has a password.
Yes.
I know her
My phone has a
password.
All
password.
right.
She knows my
That's
password.
right.
They
My
know my
children know
password.
my password. And there is nothing to hide.
Right.
Nothing to hide. And so there is that transparency there. But when you, as a wife, you you can,
You gotta hide from your
you
husband,
know,
or your
you
husband
you
gotta hide from
you
the
hiding
wife.
each other from each other with passwords
You
and them kind
know,
of thing. Those are signs. Those are signs that you should
Yeah.
not take lightly,
Trust is going
because
so
first.
those are
you said
signs of
husband, right?
a
Mhm.
greater problem
Is
that
your
you're not paying
exactly.
attention to.
Because remember, I was asking you, you're talking to me as a single person, right? Or
Mhm.
even a newly married person who's
Right.
watching. And what are some of the signs and the things that we can look for to see that trust might be a problem? Now, here's my question. I know you say mutual forgiveness is important. Is there a way to bounce back if trust is questioned or broken?
Yes.
There is always an opportunity for that person to bounce back, but the burden is heavily on that individual
Right.
to
The
Either
prove,
one.
offender.
yeah,
The
the
offender,
offender,
Okay.
yes.
to prove what they did to cause pain in the relationship
So, for instance, Pastor,
does not reoccur. And there are things that you have to demand from them. Number
There.
one,
So you see, because sometimes people feel you shouldn't demand.
no, at that point, you broke the trust.
Okay.
So at this point in time, I should walk away from you
Right.
because I don't know whether I can trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes a stressful situation.
Yes.
so
And
for,
so you
but
don't want that in
but
your
for
life.
instance, Pastor, let's say the trust many times is in the finance and the other woman or the other man. So if it's in the finance, you and him got the bank book, right? And next
We're
thing
gonna
you
get to that
know,
topic on another episode, by the way.
when he look at when he once he go to the bank book because they put in the bank account and he putting in money, she putting in money. Next thing you know, when he go to the bank account, he see a big withdrawal and nothing was told to him. One woman of recent times and a woman of society right here, she walked away from that marriage on that grounds because she said she can't trust him with that, she can't trust him with anything else. And it's strange because it's basically for infidelity, right? I tried to talk to her to see if it couldn't work. She said no. She said it's worse. Gambling and he's doing all kinds of things with the money. So you see how it goes? It goes from one extreme to the other. But there are people living together that got this particular issue with that bank account. How do you deal with it?
How did the two of you deal with your, well, so guess what?
Well,
We're running out of time, by
yeah.
the way. So I want those of you who are online, if you got questions, drop those questions in the comments. I'm seeing a lot of good comments, but put in the comment sections your questions. We would like to have some serious Q&A with the two of you, some serious hard topics to have these questions answered. This is really good, and I really don't want to stop us, but I'm gonna let you make your final comments, and then we're gonna have a part two next week. I promise you, we're gonna have a part two. But before you do that, if you have been enjoying this, go ahead, like this page, subscribe to this YouTube channel, like this page on Facebook, because we're gonna be bringing you monthly content that is wholesome, that is good. Remember, this is the Dear Future Hubby, Love Your Future Wifey. You are speaking into the future version of yourself and your spouse. Even if you're married 40 years or you're married 40 days, 40 minutes, we can still affirm and inspire each other. I have, for those of you coming in on later on, these are my beautiful parents celebrating 40 years of marriage this year, and I'm so happy to have their support as my very first guest live. It won't always be live, some of it will be pre recorded, but they're my first guest, and I'm so happy that they've been here to share with you candidly. Next week, now, we're going to have straight Q&A with them. All the questions that you want to ask, make sure that you DM me the questions. Please put the DM information on the screen for them, please, and you can send it to me on Instagram. DM your questions. Like I said, for those who are of the more seasoned parts of life, DM means direct message. Send it to my Instagram, or you can also send it to a message on the Facebook page that you're on, and we will retrieve all of them over the week for next week. But I'm enjoying this discussion. I don't know if you are, but I am. Now, on the trust issue, and we'll use it as our last topic for this segment for tonight. On the trust issue, I agree with you what you're saying, that some people, the slightest thing that causes trust to be broken, and this is something I grew up doing from my dad, and I believe I've been conditioned that way, and I accept it, that once trust is broken, it's very difficult for it to be regained. It As a single person, if someone is talking to me, because remember I asked a question as a single person, and you are ifing and butting, if I'm asking you, for example, what do you say if the person you're with is still in great contact with an ex, and you're trying to form your history? What do you say to that person? Because now you're having reason to pause, cause to pause, because they communicate still regularly with the ex and say there is nothing wrong, there's nothing between them, but yet the when you ask questions, you get a wall or a defense. These are real situations that happen out there. How would you encourage a single person? What do they do in that situation? Do they continue to tarry? I know communication is very important. You have expressed that this is a bothersome spot. What do you do there and after you said, you're communicating with every other person, even including your exes. But when it comes to us communicating, there is a breakdown in communication, and that leads to some distrust because now, if what are you talking about? And then you ask the question, what are you talking about? Then, oh, it's nothing. So, because for me personally, I believe an ex is an ex. This is my program. You don't have to agree. If you don't agree, that's okay. We can agree to disagree. But an ex is an ex for a reason. I don't believe that you should be having great communication or conversation or even friendship with an ex. It doesn't mean you're nasty to the person. It doesn't mean you're not cordial and so on. But if you're going to be giving this time and energy to someone of your past and the one in your present you're building for the future, can that cause some form of distrust? And how do you help a single person to deal with that?
One of the things I can only share from my experience, like I said early on, that there was somebody before my wife that I was dating, and that went from 1975 to about 1979, and that was the end of it. And so, and that whole thing went, you know, south. From the time I started to talk to my wife, there was no communication with the ex, none whatsoever. I happened to see her at funerals because she attended church, I attended church. Somebody from the church died that we both knew, and I was presiding at the funeral, and so I would see her. The most I said to her is good afternoon, and that was it. There was no stopping after the funeral to have a conversation. There was nothing to talk about. There was nothing to talk about. I had moved on, and I hope that you also moved on. And so there was no communication. One of the things the only way you communicate with an ex is if that ex, you had children with that ex, and there are children that are involved, then there must be a level of communication. And the communication is based on the children, not on the two of you, on the children, because you got children. But if both of you are single and this person has an ex and they're still talking with the ex, you've got some flags coming up there. You got to be very
You
careful
said you got
about it.
some flags coming up there.
Yeah, you got some you're
Some
looking at an
some red
amber,
flags.
you're looking at an amber light, a yellow light that is about to change to a red light.
Ooh, oh,
And
oh,
so
oh.
you got to be very that's why we come back to the whole thing about transparency. You got to be transparent
Yes.
with the individual. Don't mess with the person's heart and their emotions.
Hmm.
If you want to go back to your ex, go back to your ex.
Yes.
Nobody
Nobody's
tying
stopping you.
your feet with chain and putting a lock on
Hmm.
you. If that's what you want to do,
I,
make
uh,
my day. But
and
just leave me
He
alone.
said, "Make my day."
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
so
leave me alone.
so but just before I want to use my little statement to close, but this is what I want to address that question that she's saying. Yeah, X, that is what it means. X. X mean X. Now, you don't hit the person, but you have, like I said, I will do like Joseph. Treat them with a long spoon from a long distance because you don't know what to expect. And then if you're in a new relationship, it is not good for the new relationship.
It's not
It's
healthy.
disgusting and unhealthy for people to say to us, as the pastor or the counselor, I don't trust him. And they have a child. I don't trust him. I don't even want anything to do with him or don't want anything to do with her. Either way, it goes either way. So I am saying no. If you had an ex, let it be an ex. First question, if you're a Christian, who is counseling you? Who is your pastor? Who are you speaking to? If you're a man, who is speaking to? If you're a woman, who is speaking into your life? We have four children, and I said to, and they're all adults. Brian is 25, he's the last. And I said to Brian, you're not to break a woman's heart. You don't do that. If you don't like the woman, do not set her up. I know that the times are different in dating and all of that, but seek advice. I even went this far, and y'all gonna laugh. I even went this far to say to the children that in the olden days, Pastor Dexter, see you making a comment, used to match them so
That's
we could
right.
still match them, man.
Come on,
Yep.
match me, man, match me.
All
You
right.
know, so that the parents know
I'm
each
open for a
other
match.
and we work it
Really?
out, and you know, and the children live. I mean, the village takes care, and so on. I mean, that was a light moment for me. But I just want to say that no, X means X.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean hate. It doesn't
Right.
mean treat people bad or talk funny. And be transparent with a new person. If you're a man, with a woman. If you're a woman, with a man.
Mm-hmm.
And these are some of the principles you have to live by, or else you're gonna hurt yourself. And you're gonna look back at life 20, 10 years from now, ask what in the world did you do with yourself?
Right.
So I'm saying yes. Let it, in simple explanation here, let the X be an X,
Mhm.
and do not set yourself up,
Up. Mm.
because next thing you know, you go forward into that. You got she, or you got she, or you got he, and you got
Ain't no kind of
he.
story like that. It's disrespectful.
Yes.
And marriage is about respect.
Yes.
You can't be that disrespectful. You messing with an ex and then still going after the other person. In the message this morning, I said something, there was a point that I made. Uncertainty
Yes.
is the killer
Killer vision.
of vision and
Mm-hmm.
potential.
Yes.
Uncertainty is the killer of vision and potential.
Yeah.
When the person is still dealing with the ex, there is uncertainty.
Right.
And that uncertainty will kill the
Any vision
relationship,
of the future.
any vision of the
Yes.
future,
Come on.
or any
Come on, guys.
relationship that you're trying to
Right.
establish.
It may mean that you're not even serious about what you're doing. It boils down to who is speaking into your life.
Right.
Who do you
Yes.
have?
You
If
guys
you're
did
a
say that
man listening to
counsel
me,
is very
if you have a woman,
important.
if you're a woman listening to me, or a man, or young people, whoever you are, older people, get counsel. And listen, not only get counsel, choose the right set of people to counsel you. You have them right here if you need to. Are we going to tell you the truth? And so don't want to get into a relationship and then you got to face all the all the variations and all the hardship that comes with that relationship. That's so true, Adele. I agree with you that born those, just move on. Just don't stay
You know,
there.
there are some, like you said, burn. There are some bridges you really need to burn because you don't get to 40 years as you're seeing here. They're giving you the cues and the tips. And I'm learning also. I didn't know that daddy's former girl, his ex, broke his trust. But I think in that in your answering, you also answered my question. There is place to bounce back from it because he was able to trust again. He was able to trust a new woman, to trust my mom and allow her into his life.
Well, I wasn't going to trust that person.
Come on, I heard he said it for himself.
And I'm sure that because he's human, when I came into
Exactly.
his life, he might have been wondering a few things too, like I was wondering a few things.
Well, to be fair to you, one of the things I've always said, and I've said that to the folks that I've counseled, I've asked them and I've pointed out to them the danger of bringing the old experience
Come on,
into the new relationship,
fling the cards
because
up.
you're going to
That's
put
so
pressure on
true.
the new person who hasn't done anything. But you're penalizing the new person for the sins of the old person. So you have to
Listen,
bury that past. You've got to leave it aside, and so that you don't allow the old relationship
come
and
on,
the baggages and all
come
of the
on.
misfortunes of that old
Yes,
relationship condition your mind, so
yes,
that you are unfairly treating the other person who is loyal to you, but because of your bad experience in the past,
yes,
you're bringing that into a present
mm,
relationship. And
yeah.
what you're doing is damage to yourself, because you're destroying the foundation of the relationship
Come on.
that you're
Well,
trying to build, because you're bringing old baggage into a new relationship.
you
It's
know what
not going to
that says
work.
to me, Daddy? There has to be accountability.
There
Yeah.
must
If
be
there isn't
accountability.
accountability, like Mommy is saying, and I'm talking to singles, to us out there, who are you talking to? Who is counseling you? Who's advising you? Who are you willing to submit yourself to? And then to you, you recently married or married and in the what afternoon of your marriage. That is, you gone from the morning, you just got married, you now have a child or children. That's your afternoon of the marriage. Who are you talking to? Do you still maintain, building and having spouse retreats and so on? I know we're in a pandemic and so on, but what are some of the things that you're doing? Here we have these veterans telling us some practical things. It's a very, very difficult season we're living in, Pastor. And it's so easy for people to get away with almost murder and all kinds of things. I want to hear, listen, let me tell you. Make sure you like this page. If you didn't like this page yet, like it now. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to this channel because every month I'm going to be bringing you some wholesome topics and discussions. I have coming up in next episodes, I'm going to be featuring some youngins in the morning of their marriage with, well, afternoon as well. But on live tonight, I want us to give a shout out to Pastor Dexter Daly. He's going to be one of my guests with his lovely wife, Sister Kim, and they're going to be on in coming episodes. And then I'm going to have some of my peers who are also married. And we'll have discussions because I am still unmarried at this point, and they're married, and there's some different dynamics, but there are some things we often talk about as friends. So I'm so happy. Do you want to make a last comment?
Yeah,
Okay.
Amanda on the asking for a repeat of the quote that I gave from the sermon today.
Oh.
Uncertainty
Mm-hmm.
is a
Killer
killer
of vision
of vision
and
and
potential.
potential.
And if you're gonna quote it, just make sure you put at Dr. 𝒂𝒊. We live in this time and age where you need to give credit where the credit is due. So it's uncertainty is the killer of vision and potential at Dr. 𝒂𝒊. Is there anything you want to say
Yeah,
final?
Dominique, love your boy. Adele watching y'all, right? I hearing y'all.
So
Listen.
on next week, Sunday night, same time, same place, we're gonna have my featured guest coming again, and they're gonna be live Q&A questions. If you got a question, scrolling on the screen for you is where you can submit your questions. Okay. Now again, DM me for my seasoned people on here tonight. DM means direct message me on Instagram at Miss JelC. It's gonna come up on the screen for you, and drop your questions. I'm gonna give it to them ahead of time, as well as if you have questions throughout the week, you can send it on this Facebook page. Send a message. Leave it in the comments after you watch this video so that we can submit the questions. They'll be back again on next week. I would like to say thank you so much for being here with me, parents. We are well into our time. It's not supposed to be such a long program, but we'll come again to it next week. I just want, because we still have a couple more questions that we didn't get to. We'll do those questions and then we go straight to the live Q&A. So make sure that you subscribe and you get the alerts that you'll be able to know when we're live. We'll be live again next week, Sunday night, and they will be doing live Q&A with all your questions. They're gonna answer them. I really enjoyed this. I wanted you guys to have a time to just share candidly. We're not in a church setting. We relax. We're having a nice time. Listen, dear future husband, you out there, you hearing this, whenever you hear it, if you hear it, when you hear it, I'm waiting on you, okay?
I love that.
So I am going to now switch to, we have a special tribute for you tonight. It's Valentine's night, and I am so happy to have my parents with me on Valentine's night. And I know that next Valentine's, I'm going to have my husband with me, okay? I'm declaring it. Decree a thing and it shall be established, all right? And the light shall shine on your path. All jokes aside, I wanted to share a very special tribute with you. A song that I've written a long, long time ago when I was, a youngin', and it's called What a Gem. And so, if you can be so kind to put it on for me, the song, please, the title. And so, for you now is going to be What a Gem by yours truly, written and composed by me. This song is dedicated to all the singles waiting patiently for that special gem. What a gem, what a gem. what a gem God has prepared for me. My quest is over. I have been blessed. See, I'd wondered when I'd have my rare, pure and precious gem. But my God, He's seen my tears, and He has blessed me, and He has favored me, and He has chosen me to bless me with a gem. Such a good gem He is, a wonderful gift, and all I can do is give God praise. Oh, what a gem, what a gem, what a gem I have got. Oh, what a gem, what a gem God has prepared for me. As time passes by, you realize this gem is from the Lord. See, all things work together for my good, 'cause I'm called by God. He's a heavenly Father who knows how to give gifts unto His children as they serve Him. Ooh, and what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. His work is perfect and it is good. Such a gem, what a gem. You're rare, you're precious, you're beautiful and so pure. You're my gem, what a gem God has prepared for me. And you know what? I am deserving, so deserving of the best, the rare, most precious gifts. Woo. My God in heaven, see, He knows this well, and He has blessed me with. And you declare it now. You're my gem, you're my gem, what a gem, yeah, I have got. Oh, you're my gem, such a gem. Ooh, God has prepared God has chosen me. Oh, yeah, yeah. God has blessed me. Oh, yeah. God has favored you. All right. I hope that you were enjoying that. And so we have for you some beautiful gifts for Valentine this evening. And I hope that you have really and thoroughly enjoyed yourself. So, coming to showcase some of my lovely merch, this merch is positive affirmation merch that you have for grabs. And my first lovely model is going to be the illustrious Phoebe. And she's very single, gentlemen. She's very single, very available. And her shirt says, "Dear future hubby, love your future wifey." And she's wearing the hashtag t-shirt. And she has in her hand sweetheart. And that, she said, is she's telling her husband to be that he's her sweetheart. And he knows her. He knows it, and he knows it very well. Phoebe's wearing for you cotton t-shirt. Her t-shirt is 100% cotton, and this is for the wife who wants to just let people know that, you know what, I'm in love with my dear future husband, and so she wants this shirt to be worn, and she's also making positive declarations. You can go more over to it, right, to her husband and to the world. All right. And then our next model coming for you is the beautiful, effervescent Valerie Patrina Faith, wearing a hot red. Hello, future hubby. Walk closer to the camera so they can see you. Hello, future hubby. Loving you in advance. Your future wifey. She has in her hand, "Be mine." She's very available, lovely. She's a good cook. Both of them are good cooks. They can take care of the home. You don't have to worry. Listen, future husbands out there, you're missing out, okay? Some man is walking there without favor. Woo! Don't be favorless. Come on, come on. So these girls, go a little more to your right, yes, because wait. These lovely ladies, yeah, thank you, are showcasing my designs. Hello, future husband, loving you in advance. Remember, we're declaring and decree a thing as though it is, so it will come to pass. And then also, we have some other merch for you. And let me just show you those while they get their other merch together. The t-shirt also comes in white, and this is the main logo, and this is the blue one that Phoebe was wearing, that she has on. You can get those, and these are all made in America. Support American business. And that's the red one that Valerie is wearing, as well as they're going to showcase to you the cushions. So these are called Hug Me pillows. Hug Me pillows. Let me put them on for you. They're hugging these pillows. They come in 2 sizes. So the one that Phoebe's holding, that's the blue side. It's the logo. It says, "Dear Future Hubby." They all have the logo on it. And then the one that Valerie is holding, and Phoebe's is 2-sided, says, "Dear Future Hubby." The logo as well, and on the other side has the affirmation that have been written by yours truly. So they're 2 different sizes. If you'd like to have one of these, go ahead and DM us, and we'll be able to give you the information. You know how you can get them. All right, Beautiful. Look in love. Look at them. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. It says, hug me, pillow. So this is for the single ladies. And then for the men, we'll think about you and we'll do dear future wifey. You hug it. And the one pet says, hold it up for me, let me read it. It says, a little cuddle goes a long way. Looking forward to our pillow talks and cuddle time every night for the rest of our lives. So until he gets here, you can cuddle and hug that up and just make sure that you're feeling all right. You know, self-love is not that bad, okay? All right, all right, all right. So now we have, and this is what it's going to look like if it's in your chair. And then we have some more, a few more. We have the cups. So if you have the cups still. So I have these cups that, you know, some of us like to drink tea. And you like to sip on some nice tea, or, you know, some of you like to sip on some other things in your teacups. But, you know, you can also use the cups, and here Phoebe's close by with a cup for you. And these are 11 ounce mugs. And if you just come closer to the camera, yes. And as you can see there, live in person, she's modeling it so sweetly and so nicely. Right now, we only have them in 2 colors. And you go ahead and get them. Just let me know which one you want, and I will hook you up. And then Valerie is holding Love Notes journals. If you know anything about me, you know I love to write, and I like to write in my journal. And this one is a special one. I designed it and created it so that there's an affirmation and a declaration that you say up front. And if you skip to the very last cover page in the back, it says, my prayer for us. So this is what you're going to say, especially her who's wearing this. Hello, future hubby. Loving you in advance. I'm sure Valerie would be glad to have one of these. So you can step back, ladies, so they can see you. Hold all your merch if it's possible together. Yes, we're going to support American business. And there, I have the link online for you if you want to get more information. Go ahead, join our list. We're growing our website as we're growing this program. So you'll be able to access some of our wonderful merch. Listen, this is to encourage, to affirm, and to give declarations to those of you who are in need of some positive affirmation. So I am so happy that you have been able to join me tonight, and thank you, ladies. And I just want to let you know that my dear future husband, wherever you are, whoever you are, I'm loving you in advance. And now I'm going to share with you. Let me affirm you. All right? Thank you so much for joining me tonight. This is your host, the one and only, yours truly, Juanita E. Cameron. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. This is episode number 1, and we're only going to get bigger and better and greater. And now for our affirmation for the night. Dear future husband, I look forward to us growing a life filled with love and laughter, holding each other closer than anyone else, hopeful for a great legacy together forever. Love, your future wife, Juanita E. Cameron, for now.